Hey, what's up, everybody? Here I am back again, dipping my toes back into the YouTube pool to bring to you the most definitive guide about getting into the points and miles game. You could call it the hustle, you can call it this thing of ours, whatever it is you want to call it. I'm going to show you how to get into it, and these steps will actually be very easy for you to pass on to someone else who you might be trying to share your obsession with. So as always, let's give it up for my co-star and then we will jump right into the content.
Welcome back to my dad's channel. If you're new here, make sure to click that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to share.
So first and foremost, I always say this is a mantra on my channel. My whole purpose is to make you the smartest credit card users in the room. We don't have to be the biggest, we don't have to be the baddest, but we do have to be the smartest in order to save money and deploy these tools in the best way possible. That is the whole point of the game. That is where I am with this channel. Now, in addition to that, this video was inspired by the big homie Lewis. I bumped into a guy named Lewis. We actually I think we went to high school together, I want to say, but we also have a mutual friend, Derek, who suggested that he come to me with questions about using his points and his miles in order to, make his life easier, make travel easier, subsidize travel. So shout out to you, Lewis. Hopefully this can help you. This is like an extension of our conversation. So I figured, why not make a video about it? And let's take this step by step. Each step that I'm going to lay out to you is going to build on top of one another. And frankly, you're not going to find a better guide anywhere, period. I don't care who it is. Line them up, I'll knock them all down. That's literally how good I am, period. It's not like I'm trying to pat myself on the back or anything like that. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. So without further ado, let me get to the damn point already and take you into step number one. So first thing, you have to change your mindset in order to change your financial habits. So what I would suggest for anyone trying to get in the game, trying to introduce someone to the game, take 30 days, one billing cycle, pick one credit card. I don't care what it is. If it's your Credit One card, great. If it's your Luxury Gold, shout out Sledge, great. If it's your Amex Platinum, if it's your Freedom Unlimited, your Susie B. Coleman card from Bank of America, I don't care. But you take one credit card, preferably one that is attached to a bank that you bank with, because most of us have them and don't even realize it, and you use that card for everything that you possibly can in a month. 30 days. Use it for everything. I don't care how big of a purchase. I don't care how small of a purchase. Well, big, I don't know what kind of credit limit you're working with, but either way, use that card for everything. Now, the whole point of this is actually a couple of things. Number one, it gives you a great accounting of literally every single nickel that flies through your hands and into a merchant. So it's not really coming out of your account because you still got to pay it. But at least you see what your spending habits are. That is a great indicator of whether you're ready to jump into the credit card points and miles game because, well, spending is a big thing, but being cognizant of your spending is an even bigger thing. Secondly, if you do it with a bank that you already bank with, chances are you check your bank account. So it actually makes it a lot more difficult to, quote unquote, forget to pay the bill or be late with the bill because you're staring at the balance all the time. So that's another reason why you kind of want to do it with a bank, with a card that you share with your bank account. If you can't, hey, it's not the end of the world. Another thing, I would actually prefer you do it with a cash back card because even if you find out that this game is not for you, at least you got some cash back. You can apply it to the balance that you have to figure out how to pay. Now, why this step first? Well, at last count, the average American has 11 credit cards. That's literally a real statistic. So taking everybody into the aggregate, me with my 30 plus, Key with her 100 fulfillion, it all depends. All that stuff averages out. Average American Joe has 11 credit cards. So it's just the thing. Credit looms large over all of us. Now, you will hear a lot of other creators and a lot of actual financial experts or experts and, people in the know who will tell you without thinking, just use your credit card like a debit card. Okay. I mean, all right. But let's get deeper into that. So the thing is with a debit card, that money comes right out of your account. If you don't have it, that card will not work. Unfortunately, When you don't have it, credit cards still work. In a lot of cases, hell, when you're over your limit, they still work. So giving someone that sort of blind advice without digging deeper into it and changing their paradigm on how they slide their card is a little irresponsible. So that's why this is going to be step one. So fun fact, debit cards are actually newer than credit cards. Credit cards are older than debit cards by a couple of years. First credit card was out in the mid 60s and debit cards were soon to follow. But debit cards really started to take off in the early 2000s when they started linking up with payment processors like Visa and MasterCard. So I'm going to date myself a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when a lot of my contemporary credit card creators, I think, may have actually been in diapers. When you used your debit card, you had a choice. I had a Chase debit card that had a Visa logo. So when I would go and buy goods from a merchant, I would have to choose whether it was going to be credit or debit. And in order to get debit cards to go further and faster before the Durbin Amendment, what they would do is give you all sorts of promotions. If you use credit, you would be entered into drawings and so on and so forth, and you could possibly win deposits into your account and so on and so forth. People in my age cohort probably remember those times, the debit card age, where you can pick and choose between credit and debit. Now, mind you, the money still came directly out of your account. It was only that it was processed differently. So that way you can use your quote unquote ATM card at a place that took credit cards, but it would still come straight out of your bank. So that's how that works. But the idea of using your credit card like a debit card, first, hopefully you have a good grasp on your debit card. Credit cards and debit cards simply aren't the same, but I get where they're going with this. But this step, using your credit card for everything, it will show you. It will show you if you're spending more than you take in. And then you're gonna have to figure that out. It will show you exactly what tranche you are in, and you will have some serious thoughts to make. That's why this is the first step, because in order to make that kind of change, you gotta change your habits. And a lot of us were taught that simply having a credit card meant instant debt and so on and so forth. And this works to chip away from that. So, step two. Now that we've taken 30 days and we've built up that muscle memory, you are sliding your card for everything. You know exactly how much you're spending. You know what you can manage, what you can pay, and you've handled your bill. You have used that grace period to the best of your ability and hopefully have avoided all manner of interest. Keeping my fingers crossed for you because, well, interest happens. It is what it is. Now, you might, that one credit card, unless you're, a super stellar kick-ass human being and are a glutton for punishment, that one credit card, it would be best to learn its categories, because credit cards are, once again, different from debit cards. Credit cards will give you a return on your spend dependent on category, unless you have what's called a catch-all. Now, mind you, a lot of these terms I've covered in other videos. I will go ahead and put one right here, and there will be some later. But for the most part, most credit cards actually have different categories where you will earn different multipliers of points per dollar spent, i.e. every card in their mother has at least 3 points per dollar or 3 cents per dollar or 3% return per dollar spent at restaurants, meaning for every dollar you get, 3%, which is equivalent to 3 cents or 3 points or what have you, they will keep that in a little account for you, and that's how that works. Now, you have other cards that range in variety. You have the Wells Fargo Attune that has a category for everything from unicorn horns to goldfish toenails. Then you have cards that are travel focused, like the Amex Platinum card, 5x on your plane travel booked directly with airline carriers. You have your Hilton Aspires, you have your Citi cards, you have a bucket of cards that have many different things that you can spend on and get different multipliers. Then you have your rotating cards like the Discover It card and the Chase Freedom Flex. Oop, too soon? Ouch. Yeah, well, I hope they bring it back. If you know, you know. But in any case, you have rotating category cards and all sorts of cards outside of catch-alls. So that is something that you need to do. You need to learn your categories, because now if you're sliding, why not slide the card with some intention? Because let's face it, return on spend is really a huge part of the game. Return on spend with your credit card, if you're participating in the points miles travel game, or if you're participating in subsidizing your life with the currencies that you earn via credit cards, return on spend is like 99% of it. It's that last 1%. That's what separates the unks from the nephews. But that is something that you definitely want to think about. Learn your categories. And in this case, if you're only dealing with one card, it really shouldn't be too terribly difficult unless you have one of those Wells Fargo cards or a Citi Strata Premier or one of those cards that just have 3% in a ton of categories like the Wells Fargo Autograph or the American Express Green Card. You see where I'm going with this. You can feel free to research some of these cards. As a matter of fact, I have videos where I've reviewed them because they are in my collection. But yeah, we definitely want to learn our categories. So far, we're sliding for everything. We got the muscle memory. Now, we slide when we know we're going to get the most points. Okay, what's next? The next thing is building systems. This is step number 3. Step 1, you slide for everything. Step 2, you know what to slide and when to slide it. Now, in this step, you are comfortable sliding your card. You are at least familiar with the categories of at least one card. And trust me, how they work on one tends to be how they work on them all. It's just a simple read or a simple YouTube search. But now it's time to build systems. You can get very complicated. You can do hybridized systems where you mix cashback cards with transferable point cards. Like one of my first systems that I built, I had a hybridized American Express setup where I had the Blue Cash Preferred in conjunction with the Blue Business Plus and the Platinum card. And that was my hybridized setup within the same American Express ecosystem that earned a mix of cashback and transferable currencies. You can keep it simple, like the Capital One Duo, which consists of the Venture X and the Saver card, which fairly well covers everything and gets you a minimum of 2x Capital One miles per purchase. The whole point of building systems is to optimize your spend so that you cover every category of what it is that you spend. Now, this has been done to death, but it's ubiquitous and I have to give it respect because it does still work. There's the Chase Trifecta where you have the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex, ooh, I did it again, and the Chase Sapphire Preferred and or Reserve. With those 3 cards, you have multipliers that cover food, that cover pharmacy, that have rotating multipliers that can cover everything from gas to groceries to hardware stores. And then in addition to that, the Chase Freedom Unlimited earns a base of 1.5 points per dollar spent. So that way you're never just earning 1 point per dollar. That's just an example. A much more expensive example is the American Express Trifecta with the $695 Platinum card, the $325 Gold card, and the free Blue Business Plus. But now that trifecta is over $1,000, whereas it was not the case before. That's a much more expensive system, but it accomplishes the same thing with the Blue Business Plus, giving you minimum 2 points per dollar on all dollars spent. There's Citi trifectas. There are all sorts of, now there's like a Wells Fargo trifecta-ish kind of with the Active Cash, the Autograph, and I think it's another card that they have thrown in there. So there are many different ways that you can use to build a system, but the whole point of building a system is to cover every category of spend, from utilities to food, to groceries, to warehouses, to gas, to you name it. You want to have a card where you can use to maximize your spend in order to get stuff back so that you can have fun times on trips like me. Now, as an aside, at this point now, once you're getting into multiple cards, you will start getting into sign-up bonuses if you did not get a sign-up bonus before on your very first card. If you started with one you already had, chances are you've probably missed that window. Now let's get into sign-up bonuses. It's gonna be a little, sidestep off the journey here, but the fact is, sign-up bonuses, once again, harken back to return on spend. One of the best ways you're going to get return on spend for your cards. So once you start paying some of the annual fees for this cards and you get sign-on bonuses, I'm going to give you some tips here. For the sign-on bonus, Step 1 is applicable. You get a brand new card and it has a sign-on bonus. Refer to step 1. Use that card for everything. Do not miss out on these sign-on bonuses or else you are leaving money on the table. And we all know how I feel about leaving money on the table. Give me that. Any case, also with sign-on bonuses, this is also the thinking part. Do not get a sign-on bonus that you cannot organically hit. There's no reason for you to get an Amex Business Platinum card because you see 250,000 points with $20,000 worth of spend that is going to be due in 30 days, especially if you make $17 an hour. That doesn't, even if they don't charge you taxes, you can't pay the bill on time, especially not in full. So why even get yourself into that sort of trouble? So sign-on bonuses, I've covered them in other videos, but the fact of the matter is, once again, huge return on spend, great boon, but you don't want to overdo it. But now that you have your shift in mindset as far as credit cards are concerned, sign-on bonuses won't be such a daunting task as I've seen them be for other people who still haven't even decided that credit cards aren't automatic debt machines. And as a matter of fact, just like I said earlier, now speaking of that, you're going to be hearing a lot of terms because I'm going to be moving through this a little bit. This video is going to be a little bit longer than I expected. So I'm going to refer you to yet another video that I did with terms to know, especially if you're getting into the game, and even for some people who are into the game. I don't understand why more people don't have it on a must watch. Don't get me wrong, not to pat myself on the back, but I put together one hell of a list there and it could probably help a lot of questions that people have. But for my new players, that definitely will help you. And as one last thing goes, once you start getting into subs, and you start building credit card systems, it is very important to remember that this is the part where you're either gonna love or absolutely hate this game that we play. So this is the precipice, this is the point of no return. So once you start building them out, hey, you gotta stick with these cards for at least a year or else you start muddying your relationships and you may need things later and you just don't wanna go through it with them as far as that's concerned. So let's go ahead and keep that in mind. We are 3 steps through, we only have 2 left. And I promise I'll let you get back to your regularly scheduled programming. So, step 4. This is where you take the biggest bite of the apple. This is the time where you need to know the benefits, the fees, and transfer procedures for your cards. This is extremely important. But the problem is you can't know all of this stuff until you are ready for it, or else you're literally just shooting in the dark. Nobody wants to do that. So, very first thing as far as this step is concerned, I don't care what anyone says to you. I don't care what financial guru tells you this. Know your interest rate. I've heard time and time again, I don't even care about the interest rate because I'm never going to pay interest. Never say never. Know your interest rate. Know your fees. Know if your card has foreign transaction fees. Know your travel protections. If I buy this ticket, is there anything I have to do in order to make sure that they don't void my baggage claim, my trip delay? Do you have trip delay? When you rent a car, do you need insurance, or does that free card that you just got because someone suggested to you, like the Bilt card, does it provide free car insurance for your rental car? These are things that you absolutely need to know. What are your travel partners for Chase as opposed to Citi, as opposed to Capital One, as opposed to Amex? What are your travel rates? This is where the rabbit hole really gets deep because there are many different benefits for many different cards, and there are many different benefits even within the same ecosystem for the same cards. Like, for example, Capital One cards, they don't have any foreign transaction fees. None of them at all, period. You can use a Capital One card, whether it's a $39 Quicksilver for 3-toed credit or the Venture X, you use it anywhere in the world, no foreign transaction fees. Whereas in other cases, with other more well-known card systems, like the Chase Trifecta, you can use the Chase Sapphire Preferred anywhere in the world. Chase Freedom Unlimited, you're paying a fee. That's it. And then here's the thing. All these fees and all these things, they all are in flux because they will change from time to time. Benefits and things are added and taken away. So be very wary of that. That's why this is step 4. It's buried deep into the game because it can be a lot. By this time, I wouldn't expect you to have a million cards, but even just with a simple trifecta or a simple duo, this can turn into a lot to keep track of, and I just want to make sure that you are prepared for this. It's just a smart route to go. And then also, if you're dealing with points and miles as opposed to cashback, you need to know who you can transfer to, even if you have someone else do the heavy lifting for you. You definitely want to know your transfer partners, what kind of ratios they are, and what do you have to do to transfer? Can you transfer for free? Or do you transfer points and then have to pay a fee in order to do so, like you do with domestic carriers from American Express, like I did with Hawaiian, like I did with Delta? Actually, no, I never transferred to Delta, but I've heard stories that when people transfer to Delta, they gotta pay a fee. So that too is something to think about. Gotta know the ins and outs. And spending the money and getting the points, that's the fun part. But this is the studious part. This will set you apart. This is a big part of that 1% that I was talking about earlier that will separate you from the rest of the nephews. So now, the fifth and final step, there's nothing else after this. Now you start to have fun. This is where the math really starts mathing, because this is where you start stacking points. Now, shout out Lonnie. Stacking points means that you are mixing and matching different programs in order to earn multiple points per dollar spent. So one thing that comes to my mind is you should now be introduced to your spending portals, like the Capital One portal, which is extremely robust, the American Airlines travel portal, which earns you very difficult to get AA miles, which are very, very valuable. There's Hilton Dining, there's Built Dining, there's Marriott Dining, there's all sorts of spending. Oh, and the king, Rakuten, which you can either earn cash back or American Express MR points, as long as you have an MR point earning card and you link it to your American Express account. There are so many things that you can do in order to stack points on top of points. So if you have a dining card and you're a part of a special program, you may be able to earn those 4x Amex points when you use your gold card at a certain restaurant, in addition to 3 American Airline points on top of it because you've registered your card through that. That's 7 points. Now you're almost at 10 cents per dollar coming back to you. Remember, inflation is a real thing and it literally never turns off. So in addition to that, right, you have your Chase portals, your spending portals, your Amex portals, your American Airline portals, your every portal in the world to spend your money. But then you also have offers. So Citibank has offers. There's Amex offers. There's Bank of America AmeriDeals. There's Wells Fargo offers, Chase offers. These offers are things that further stack on top of your spending that will give you cash back, extra awards. They will do super multipliers. At one point, I got Mother's Day flowers from my wife, my mother-in-law, and my mom. I got 30x, 30 points per dollar spent to buy flowers for some of the most important women in my life. And it was something I was gonna do anyway. And I got a return of 30 points per dollar. Or it would have been 30% cash back had I used a cash back card. These are deals. These are things that you can't afford to pass up. But remember, everything builds on top of one another. So now you have a strong system. You got a bulletproof system because you learned your multipliers. And you learned your multipliers because you decided to start using your credit cards instead of being afraid of them. You see how everything builds up? And now you also know the confines with which you use your credit cards because you know your fees, you haven't overspent, and you know everything that comes with them. You see how everything just builds up here? So now you're a credit card using machine and you're now stacking points and you're beating the bank at their own game. And you want to earn as many points as you can before they get devalued. Because remember, inflation never turns off. And it doesn't just count for our money, it counts for the currencies that these banks lay out as well. So those are the 5 steps. That's it. And they literally all build on one another. Once you master one, you can feel free to move on to the next. Hey, if you slide your card and you think you know what you're doing after 2 weeks, knock yourself out. I'm just giving you some guidelines to work with because these are things that you're going to need to know. Without a strong understanding of the categories of your card, stacking points is going to be useless for you. Without a strong understanding of using your card as much as you can, you're never going to optimize your spending enough to take wonderful vacations and have fun times like me and the wife. So with all these things considered, I hope that you've gotten some great use out of this. Like I said, even if you're already in the game and you know these things, you've already done them, by all means, use this as a stepping stone to help usher someone into the great mystery. As you were once ushered, I think this can help with all ages because it literally builds on changing a mindset first and changing the other financial habits going forward. So once again, this goes out to Lewis. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for picking my brain and helping me sit down and decide how to be better for my audience. I hope that you can use this or anyone else around can use this. 5 simple steps, very easy and laid out. I put chapters in it so you can feel free to skip through the step that maybe, might be giving you some grief. I'm going to do my pointy thing. That's that one and that one right there. These are 2 videos that I think you ought to check out. In addition to that, I also have playlists and I'm not going to keep you any longer. So with that, take it easy.